Here's a question I want you to sit with just for a moment. When the people above you, the ones who decide your next move, search your name right now, what comes up? If the answer's not much, you're not alone. But here is what that silence is costing you. The opportunities that never reach you. The promotions that go to someone else less qualified but better known. And the next role that gets filled before your name even enters the conversation. Today I'm talking with Howie Chan, a professional brand strategist who spent nearly a decade as a managing director of brand strategy before being laid off in 2022. That experience became his fuel. In under 4 years, Howie became one of LinkedIn's most recognized experts on professional branding from scratch. His mission? Helping leaders become known outside their company's four walls before a crisis forces the issue. In this episode, we cover why your professional brand is career infrastructure, not vanity, the difference between self-promotion and strategic visibility, the C.A.R.E credibility framework that turns competence into referable, and the first steps you can take this week to stop being the best kept secret in your organization. You're not going to be the best kept secret in your organization anymore. You're going to be the name they think of first. Let's get started.
Welcome to Women's Leadership Podcast, showing you how to influence people, improve your performance, and advance your career. Brought to you by women's leadership and career expert Sabrina Brahm and womensleadershipsuccess.com. Here's your chance to meet women trendsetters leading the way to success, accomplishment, and balance in business and life. No matter if you're a manager, CEO, or entrepreneur, join Sabrina for coaching and no-nonsense advice to improve your career and bottom line.
So happy to see you today, Howie. I'm so excited to have you on the program. I've known you for about a year through Archimedes, and we've been in contact with on LinkedIn. And I've really been so impressed by who you are, not only your expertise, but your integrity and the kind of human being you are, which is so important to me on my show. I really care about my audience, and I want to have super great people on. And so you're one of them, and I'm excited you're here.
Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you for the kind words. Thank you.
You're known for your branding and your positioning on the executive level, and I wondered how you got focused on this kind of work.
Yeah, so it actually started from a loss. So this was in 2022. Sabrina, I remember this like it was yesterday. It was one of those things where you get a meeting put on your calendar on a Friday afternoon. It was March 31st, 2022. I remember that day very well. You know how the story goes. And when I got on the call, it was my manager and it was an HR person. And I thought, oh, this is not going to be good. And my boss at the time basically said, it is not going to be good for you, Howie. This is going to be bad news. And once I heard that, my mind just sort of went blank. Didn't really hear what he said for the next minute or so. And then he hopped off the call. And of course, it turned out I was being laid off. I was a managing director of brand strategy at that point, Sabrina, and had been with an agency for close to 9 years. So in agency time, that's a long time to be at one place. But I remember particularly when that happened, the first thing that came to mind was, what are the painters going to think? Because I had painters in my house that day, Sabrina, and I felt ashamed, right? Like, oh, are they going to think I can't pay them? So all these things were running through my head. And at that point in time, I just started writing things on LinkedIn, and I posted about this event for me. I didn't really know what I was going to do next, but then the next week or so, I had so many people reach out, and I remember this guy whom I worked with at a previous company, Sabrina. He actually got laid off as well. And he asked me, what should he be doing? Now, at that point, I was early in my brand building journey on LinkedIn, but I was starting. And I basically thought, man, it is really sad. He was someone that I respected. at the company I worked before, and now he found himself unemployed and didn't know what to do. So it was really a heartache for me, not just for myself, but for people in this predicament where you become the best kept secret in your company. And, there's no such thing as loyalty to you. It's a business. So people get let go all the time. We see this day in and day out, right, Sabrina, in today's environment. So that's what led me to be also working with executives and experts on their, what I call professional brand, but about their ability to be known outside of the four walls of their company.
Wow. And so since that was 2022?
Yes.
And in 4 years, you have become very well known and respected in your field. So that's pretty amazing to do that in 4 years.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, we'll talk about this for sure. I think one of the key beliefs is, whenever you're sort of thrown out into the world outside of your company and the four walls, you sort of lose that identity, and it's a real pain. It's a physical pain that people actually feel when you lose that identity, right? So one day you're this, and then another day you're that. And what I recommend to people is really dig down deep into the value that you bring, into the person that you are, into the other sort of identities that you have, and use that as a strength to then create something new.
I love it. And for my audience, which are mostly women executives, why is waiting to build your brand a career risk?
Yeah, so Sabrina, I feel like we've all been taught this, which is if you work hard, if you put your head down, good things will happen for you. And I feel like, in particularly women, I mean, just because of my experience, I talk to my wife about this all the time. She's very reluctant to talk about, her value or what she's done. And I feel, perhaps it's not just women, but it's also anyone who is a sensitive worker who wants to just kind of do that, put your head down. And we've been lied to, because when you do that, people just won't know who you are and the value that you bring. And you might say, oh, my colleagues know me. But there will be a time that you will leave your company, and what happens then? So, don't wait, right? So to that person that reached out to me, what should I do? I would, and I said this, the best time is to build your brand is years ago, but second best time is now, right? Like do it now.
Right. Well, I work with a lot of people that are going up for promotion or have been passed over, and not having a brand or not being known really blocks their career.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't matter if you're in the company or you're losing your job. You've got to build a brand.
It's true. And I think just to make it super simple, it's this. If I email somebody, if I call somebody, and on the other side, they see your name in that inbox or they see you appear in their phone, what is the thing that you want them to come up in their heads? Is it, oh, I got to take this call because this person can help me do X, Y, Z, or I'm just going to not reply, or I'm going to ghost this person because I have no feeling about who this person is, right? I mean, that's essentially brand.
Right. Or you've made up a story about who they are that isn't true.
Right.
You really don't know all the incredible things about them.
That's right.
So how do you, what's the difference between self-promotion and strategic positioning? As a woman, most of us were taught we're supposed to be humble, not supposed to brag. So how do we get over that and understand the value to our customers, the people we work with?
Yeah.
Them understanding what our strengths and talents are.
Yeah. So there is very well-known effect called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Your audience knows this, where it's when you have a low ability, you tend to think you overestimate your ability. But what people tend to forget is that the other side of that, which was also sort of proven, is that people with expertise who are really good at what they do oftentimes undervalue it.
Uh-huh.
So I think it is a natural thing that we all feel, especially when you're a leader, when you're an expert, that you don't want to, or you don't feel like you want to put your name out there, that you don't want to talk about your value because you feel like, maybe it's not such a big deal. It's not such a big thing.
Uh-huh.
But essentially, you need to and you have to. So you talk about self-promotion versus strategic visibility. I feel like it's not that much of a versus. I think if you want yourself to be seen as an authority, to be known for something, you do have to be strategic about it. So that's why for me, there's a difference between, I call it personal brand versus professional brand, just from a perception standpoint. When you hear personal brand, people always think, oh, it's about people being familiar with me. Maybe I talk about my life or my experience. But from a professional standpoint, it's actually starting with who. Who are you helping? What are the problems that you're helping solve? So you start with that mindset. So being strategic means not everybody has to know who you are. It's the people that you want to serve. It's the people that will help you actually impact more people. You start there. Now, when you have decided who you want to help, the problems that you want to solve, and the uniquely things that you can do to solve that problem, you do have to promote. You do have to talk about yourself. You do have to talk about the wins. You do have to tell stories about the ways that you help somebody else. Because if you don't do that, guess what? You're actually being very selfish in that people don't get to leverage your value. You're actually hiding from it. So you do have to promote, but be smart about where you do it.
So from deciding, hey, this is the value I have, this is the expertise I have, then there's some work to do. I've got to come up with some stories that show that value, that expertise, and share them. Can you give us an example of that?
Yeah, so there are many ways that you can do that. And I feel like it's never one way. You got to do it, a number of different ways. So a really good way is to, share a story of a win, of what happened. I always counsel my clients, whenever you write something, whenever you want to talk about a win, a story is the best way because it helps people feel it and help people experience it in various parts of their brain. So it's actually more memorable, right? And you always start with the situation, what was happening in that time. And then you lead people through a challenge that's in the way of a goal, right? A conflict. And then you talk about what had to have happened, what actually was the big sort of transformation and battle, if you will, which gets to the eventual sort of solution and catharsis, right? The eventual conclusion. Now, the key thing here is there's a difference between reporting a story and reliving a story. I think we're all very used to reporting a story, which is, Sally did this or faced with this problem. So what I did was I helped her do A, B, C, and then she came up with X, Y, and Z. That's reporting. And it doesn't actually bring any people into the story. What you want to actually say is, Sally came to me with this. I felt this. Then she did this. Then she did that. And then she had to follow this. And then her boss did this. And then we did this together. So that's reliving. And then that's how people actually engage with what you tell them, and you bring them along and they see themselves in that story and feel it and remember it.
Right. I like the distinction. I find a lot of times with my clients that when they're telling the story, they leave out the conflict or what a big problem it was or how much money it was costing the company, and they go right to the solution. And that struggle in storytelling, we really want to hear. We want to hear that struggle. We want to hear what happened.
I think every movie that you go to that's great has a lot of struggle and a lot of stake, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So how do we get over the belief? What would help us get over the belief that we're we can't share this story. Or maybe the question is, how do I work that into the conversation? What's the way you do that?
No, that's a fantastic question. I think it is a matter of practice. I think we're just not used to telling stories or even sharing our feelings about things. Just because we've been taught in school, we've been taught in corporate settings that you don't do that. But if you were to put yourself in the seat of an audience and you hear a leader actually tell a story, in your mind, you'll be like, wow, that was fantastic. No one needs another PowerPoint slide full of, 25 bullet points. It actually, if you put yourself in an audience, you would greatly appreciate someone that tells you a story that brings you into their world before even explaining what is this about. So then if you're the leaders is actually telling that story, rest assured, your audience will appreciate you for it. Your team will appreciate you for it. I think that's a simple mindset shift, and it's just practice. So what I do now, in every one of my presentations, I would start with, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm just going to share a story. And it doesn't have to be big or crazy. It's just a story. And think about this though, Sabrina. In today's world of AI, information is everywhere, right? People can pull information and content anytime they choose. But what AI can't do is to tell you a lived experience that you have that nobody else has. AI can't do that. And that's the part that connects you.
That is worth saying again. I mean, it's like, no, AI can't replace you. It hasn't had those experiences. The other thing I think is so important of what you just said was the thing of rehearsal. Because I find so many people, okay, I've got this story and I'm going to be talking to 100 people. Okay, I'm going to just do the story. But you and I and people that do this all the time, we practice the story. We don't just get up and give the story.
Yeah, practice is key. I always take take lessons. Well, not take lessons, but I watch comedians do this stuff, right? Comedians are just the most fantastic craftsmen, not because they can tell jokes, but it's the process in which they put the bits together that's just amazing, right? I mean, even Jerry Seinfeld at the top of his game, making millions from his show, he still goes to nightclubs and basically share and try and fail and bomb and just continue to practice, because we just never know what will hit, what will get people to engage and what will not. So you have to continue to try. You have to continue to put things out there, and you get all the best bits, right? To put it together into something that's compelling.
Yeah, I remember I was practicing a story with my 97-year-old mother. And she said to me, I guess I'm not smart enough because I don't understand what you said. Oh. And it was like, oh my gosh, she didn't understand me. And then I worked on it. Okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
It was great feedback. I mean, it was so
fantastic feedback.
Esoteric. It didn't make any sense.
Right. Yeah, I think it's getting over the fact that, we are craftspeople. We work on our craft, and it's something that's important to you. You practice, you get feedback, you try again, and it's just the process of it all. Great.
Can you talk a little bit about LinkedIn? You are a star on LinkedIn. You've got a lot of followers. And what's the value, whether you're in a company or you're looking for a job or you want whatever it is you're trying to do? Can you talk a little bit about that value and how you approach that?
Gosh, I mean, if you are a professional of any kind, your LinkedIn is almost like it's a book of work. It's your vault that people can look at to get a sense of who you are, to know your expertise, to gain credibility. Because for me, if you think about it, if you're a professional, every post, everything that you put up there, it becomes a body of work that any recruiter, any teammate, any upper level C-suite executive can look at it and be like, wow, this person knows what they're talking about, because look at all this body of work. It is one place that is professional, right? Very different from Instagram or TikTok or other places. This is their place. So I think for anyone, whether they're working for themselves or at a company, don't neglect it. It is not just a resume place and only worth if you're seeking a job. It's not.
I had a client say to me yesterday, I'm going to put up a post and I want you to rewrite it for me. And, I said, you got to get started and you've got to do it imperfectly. It's not a perfect thing. You keep learning and you give feedback. Did anybody look at it? Did you get any comments? So just like the getting good at storytelling, you've got to practice the craft. You got to keep doing it.
Agreed. And I think a lot of, they're often traps, right? Just like when I started, I think the two big ones. One is you feel like you want to just share and teach. Almost like you think about LinkedIn as a lecture room that you're just going to lecture and then give all these things, which is a trap, because if you think about it, what are people there to do? They're not there to sit down for a lecture. Really, people are not. It is a social media platform after all. So whatever you write, just make sure it's easily digestible. It's very quickly somebody can scan it, right? Make it short, make it memorable, make it punchy. It shouldn't be drawn out because people don't have time for that. They just don't. And if you can take the time to make it shorter, do that. It will make it more compelling. That's right. One. And the other thing I think is important is know what you're trying to do on the platform. Like what is your ultimate goal? What are you actually trying to do on LinkedIn? Because there will be many different people, many different quote unquote gurus telling you what to do, but they don't actually know what your goals are. So somebody might be trying to sell you, followers. Oh, you're going to get how many thousands of followers? But do you actually want to have followers? Like, what is it for? Maybe you're there to establish yourself as an authority in a very specific domain, and you want to be hired by, a company in that domain. You don't need to have followers. This is not what it's for. So I think be very clear about what you want LinkedIn to do for you. That's number two, and equally important.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So if you are a manager in a company and you want to become a VP, what do you need to evolve in terms of your brand to make something like that happen?
Yeah, so if you think about it, when I teach people about brand work, I call it professional brand. Again, it's the most important thing is alignment. The most important thing is alignment, which means your experiences align with your the things that you say, the things that you post, the visuals that you show, what you want to be known for, your values. So all that has to align. So if you're a manager and you're moving up the ranks, right, from manager to director, from VP, whatever that thing is, just make sure that whatever you portray and whatever you put out there aligns with your experience. So as you grow, your experiences grow, your takeaways will grow, your lessons will grow, your point of view will sharpen, and your job is to reflect that as you grow. So the best case scenario is when you have a bigger point of view, a better understanding of strategy of your point of view in your industry, people will start to recognize that even though your title is a manager, people will start to understand that, wow, this person is definitely capable of more. But if you do it the other way, where you're trying to puff up your chest and you're trying to say things that you actually don't really know about, or you don't have the lived experience, then I think people can smell the inauthenticness, if you can say that, a mile away, right? It's right. BS, and it's going to undermine your credibility.
I was thinking when you were talking about being authentic.
Yeah.
And part of that is willingness to say, I don't know. When I first started my career, I was so nervous to say I didn't know something. And now I can say with confidence, oh, I don't know that person, that book, that theory, whatever it is. Or how do I find out more about it? Or, but people like it when you share even the areas you don't know about, and that you can find somebody else and not pretend that you can do everything.
Right. I mean, it all comes down to, I think, being open and being secure about your value, isn't it? I think as like anybody that starts off in a company, you can be very insecure. Oh, what am I here to do? What value do I bring? I think people need to understand, again, looking back, right? All of us got started somewhere.
Right.
It is actually at every stage of your journey, you bring exceptional value just by being you, right? So if we think about like an intern, what does an intern bring to a big established company, an experienced team? It's actually that, which is the freshness of perspective that they don't have. Right. Ask the dumb questions that will actually open up a new perspective. And that's why you're there. So every stage of your journey, there is tremendous value. So if you know your value, you can absolutely ask all the questions in the world that's not part of your domain. And is only going to help you become better and more rounded as a leader.
Yeah. The last question I wanted to ask you was around credibility, how you do that over volume. You were talking about LinkedIn. It doesn't matter if you have 100,000 people, if they don't have anything to do with what you're trying to do, but 500 that really get who you are could make such a difference. So can you speak a little more about the credibility?
Yeah. So I would say credibility, in my point of view, is a reflection of trust. Is a reflection of the trust that people have with you. And I feel the biggest level of trust is when people basically risk their own social reputation on you. What I mean is they start to refer you, right? That's the biggest level of trust. It's not just, an interaction or intersection or transaction between you and I. I'm starting to refer you to other people because I trust you so much. Now, how do we get there? I think there are 4 pillars, right? There is competency, that you are actually good at what you do. There is authenticity, which we just talked about, right? Being real about who you are, not sharing everything about you, but whatever you share is real. There is reliability. That means you do what you say what you do. You show up consistently when you say you are going to show up. And then being empathetic, that you really care. So that's C.A.R.E, right? Competence, authentic, reliable, and empathetic. So when you have that, you become a credible person that somebody trusts. And I think that can only be done over time. And when I think about volume, it's not so much as the number of people that you reach, but it's about how deep you go in that trust model with the people that you care about, that you want to serve.
Oh, I love it. It's so beautiful. And we're good. So we're going to end now, but I want to know how people can get a hold of you. So what would you suggest? What's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, I love it. So if you guys listening in, if you love podcasts, I actually host a podcast called Influence Anyone. If you want to increase and get better at influencing human behavior, not just others, but also your own, you can tune into that. You can obviously find me on LinkedIn as well.
Influencinganyone.com.
Influence Anyone. Yeah. Influence Anyone. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So look for Influence Anyone. It's on YouTube. It's on any of the podcasts, places that you go to listen. And you can find me on LinkedIn, and feel free to connect with me.
Great, Howie. And you offer great workshops. I just listened to an introduction to a workshop last weekend, and I can't do it right now, but it was so good. So is signing up for LinkedIn a way that they could know when you're going to be doing another workshop?
Got it. So the best way to do that is actually sign up for my newsletter. I write a newsletter where I publish a playbook about influence every week. So sign up for that. Go to howiechan.com. You can sign up for it there. So that's where you probably will get my information about the next workshop and everything under the sun that has to do with influencing human behavior.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I know your time is valuable, and I never take that for granted. My work is dedicated to senior managers, directors, VPs, and leaders who are ready to advance to the next level, build unshakable executive presence, and create the influence and networks that get you seen, heard, and promoted. If today's episode gave you even one idea you can use right now, that's exactly why I created this podcast. And if you want to go deeper, head over to sabrinabrahm.com and subscribe to my free 3-minute newsletter, The Missing Leadership Link, packed with twice-monthly tactics to increase your visibility and command respect in every room you walk into. And if this podcast has been valuable to you, please subscribe and leave us a review. Your review helps other women leaders just like you find this show and get the strategies they need to rise. And can I ask a small favor? Please share this podcast with at least one other leader in your life, a colleague, a friend, someone you know who is ready to step up. You could change the trajectory of their career with one simple share. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search Sabrina Brahm Executive Leadership Coach. DM me anytime. I personally read every message, and I would love to hear what resonated with you today or answer any questions you might have. If you're ready to advance faster, coaching with me will absolutely help. Reach out at sabrinabrahm.com about one-on-one coaching or join my exclusive Impact Leadership Mastermind. Until next time, keep elevating your presence and advancing your career. You've got this. I believe in you.
Thank you for joining your host, Sabrina Brahm, on another Women's Leadership Podcast. If you have questions or comments, you can email her at sabrina@sabrinabrahm.com. Since 1989, Sabrina and her team have helped hundreds of women managers, business leaders, and entrepreneurs with valuable trainings, articles, books, and executive coaching. For additional tips, interviews, and free access to Great Leaders Today mini course, visit www.womensleadershipsuccess.com.